Friends, I think the theater kids are getting too powerful. I don't know what to do about it, but yeah, this goes to prove that yeah, theater kids are yeah, they're getting way too powerful. Act 2, The Phantom Ballet by the Black Dime Cabaret. So the Black Dime Cabaret is an Australian kind of theater rock band, which, I mean, man, what is in the water with Australia these days, man? Like every band that's coming out there is just firing on all cylinders, changing the game, and are really like begging to be observed. So yeah, we come to Act 2, and obviously this is from what I've been able to find, their second album after Act 1, Nefarious Schemes to Murder Lady Midnight. Much like the band behind me, it's following a single storyline, this really interesting and intricate tale that I particularly love. And much like, say, the Deer Hunter, these guys have that very similar sound. You know, they're blending the theatrics. You know, you got a lot of the show tunes kind of flavors within it, within a modern rock tinge. But I'm getting also flavors of bands like Dirt Poor Robins, of Wrongbird, of Enoch Root, of Topiary Creatures, a little bit of like the Thank You Scientists, but definitely like Azure, the Tea Club, The World is a Beautiful Place and I'm No Longer Afraid to Die. Like you're getting the flavor, right? You're getting the flavor. This feels like it's its own subgenre of rock and progressive rock. I know some people have flirted with it being called swancore, but I take a little bit of an issue with that. I almost want to call it like theatrical rock or musical theater rock or something. I don't know. A good nomiker, a good name will come to me eventually. But yes, as I mentioned, this is their second album, as far as I can tell. They actually kickstarted it, and man, this has very quickly risen to the cream of the crop within a lot of these bands. You know, like as much as I love Dirt Poor Robins, as much as I love Wrongbird and Topiary Creatures and Azure and all that, I do feel like, you know, before the Crowning Prince used to be like the Deer Hunter and that type of style. I feel like this is starting to knock on the door of being one of the best bands doing this style of music. Not only for the blending of different genres, of, you know, the trying of different things, but also like where their source material is coming from. Because there's a couple moments on here that are taking influences from bands like Muse for the second track on this album of Death and the Maiden, as well as Dense Macabre. It feels almost like something that we would hear off of Origins of Symmetry or off of Absolution. You know, just within the bass work and the piano work being interplayed between one another. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here. I feel within this album, there are two types of tracks on here. There are those that are moving the story forward, you know, very narratively. And I need to shout out the lead singer on this record of Caitlin Ashad, or Adshad, I believe is how you pronounce her name. She also plays the piano on a couple tracks on here. Her vocals are soaring and swimming. Like I'm feeling like the same kind of vocals that we would have from Bent Knee or Black Country New Road. That very commanding, very powerful, very theatrical singing styles within the feminine vocals. And I mean, Brandon Young being on guitars and orchestrations is also like has a very crystal clear idea of where this music needs to go and how it needs to get there. Patrick Ning on guitars and string arrangements, because there's practically a full orchestra on this one, and you can tell that there's a full orchestra and it's not just a synth providing like the nuts and bolts of it. Because they do list the string quartet that's found on this album as well. Luke Boncht, I believe is how you pronounce his last name, on bass, and rounding this all off, we've got Joel Holdsworth on drums and backing vocals. And I think everybody on this record has backing vocals, so they have some really beautiful chorus work, some really amazing 3 and 4 part harmonies on here. It's all laced with some really, really good stuff. But again, I wanted to shout out Caitlin for her commanding presence right off of the get-go on this album with the Battlefields of France Part 1, that gets reprised at around the halfway mark of the Battlefield of France Part 2. Yeah, so as I said, two types of tracks. That was a bit of a tangent here. Two types of tracks. Those that move the music forward, and we're looking at, as I mentioned, probably The Great Journey South, Battlefields of France Part 2, Raven Conspiracy, Rebirth, and The Silent Cabaret. These, I feel, are much more of like we're moving the music forward, we're bringing the show continuing on, the show must go on, and I really appreciate, and I really do love those tracks, but honestly, it's the second track that I particularly love a lot more. These are the tracks that have the emotional core. In musical theater, people are singing because words just won't do enough. And I feel like that is the same thing that's going on this record, where singing and playing of the music is going on because the words just won't do enough. And that is found on tracks like You've Got Potential, In Confessional, The Second Dance, and then the final track of The Spectacle. These 4 tracks alone are worth the price of admission, and these are some of the best tracks that I've heard all year, if not like the best tracks that I've heard in this style. Like, they create such a grand presence, it's so symphonic, it's so orchestrative that I can't help but, again, let all this music wash over me. Like, You've Got Potential has this almost millennial whoop near the end point that at this point I find it a little cringe, but man, when it's presented here, I'm like, hell yeah, my guys, like, hell yeah, let's frickin' go. Once again, just high-fiving all the angels when this is going on, being like, yes, 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 yes. And In Confessional is a perfect example of the build-ups that these guys are masters of. Like, they are masters of the prog musical landscape, because it starts off very somber, very quiet, but it slowly and very gradually builds. It is the longest track at almost 8 minutes long, beating out Death of the Maiden by about, half a minute or so. This is where we're getting one of the individuals, either Brandon, Patrick, Luke, or Joel. I don't know which one exactly, but he is singing for the most part of this track, and it is so powerful, it is so punchy, and it's connecting me on a very human level that I cannot help but just sing along to when we get to that big crescendo at the end. And man, The Second Dance, this is where I'm like, maybe they're even flirting with like Thank You Scientist in the build-ups, the payoffs, and man, like, I get this song stuck in my head. Like, I will wake up with this song in my head because of how immediate and how catchy and how brilliant it is. The play out at the end where it's just like everybody's firing on all cylinders. They're really going for it. And I feel like they stick the landing. And this is the one thing that I love about the theater kids, man. They will go for it. They will go for it all in. They're not going to half-ass it. Let's try that again. They're not going to half-ass it. They are going to go full in with their hearts, with their souls, and give us some really outstanding and really beautiful, beautiful moments. And then finally, the last one I want to talk about is The Spectacle. It starts off with a more classic, rock and roll kind of a flavor. It's very bumping. It's very fun. It's, getting up the grooves, which I really, really appreciate. But then it ends on such a somber and almost heartfelt moment. This is something that, say, like a My Chemical Romance or a Fall Out Boy would do. When I want to listen to My Chemical Romance, I won't listen to Fall Out Boy. But, where it has such this heartfelt and moving moment where, sure, if you are not invested in this, it could be cringe. It could be like, oh, but by the end point, you are along for the ride, or at least I am, and I am here for every second of it. So yeah, Act 2, The Phantom Ballet, absolutely exceeded all of my expectations. This is one of my favorite records of the year. I keep coming back to it time and time and time again. And had I listened to this record just 3 weeks ago, it would have been my #1 album of the last quarter. But sadly, I didn't know about it until, the big group mentioned it to me. And immediately it became an absolute classic. So this will rank very highly on my year-end list, I'm sure. And I've been having a great time with it. So, yeah, I think my final rating for this record will be Act 2, The Phantom Ballet by the Black Dime Cabaret is an album I absolutely love with my whole heart. The fact that this is the second album from these guys shows that they have a very promising future, and I am ecstatic to see what they have in store. I will definitely listen to anything these boys put out because I know it's going to be something very, very special. So, yeah, I can't wait to see where this storyline goes. I can't wait to see where these guys go in the future, and I am waiting bated breath for whatever they put out next. So, yeah, this is an absolute run, don't walk. This gets the note seal of approval. Like, please go out and listen to this one, especially if you're a fan of the Deer Hunter, of Dirt Poor Robins, of like this style of more theatrical rock. You're going to have a good time. So, yeah, that's what I've got for Act 2, The Phantom Ballet by Black Dime Cabaret. What did you guys think about this record? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever you thought, please let me know by commenting down below. Nothing but good things to say about this record. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.